I have played Avowed. I've been looking forward to this game for quite a bit of years. I remember studying down those trailers. I remember watching them multiple times. And I have played Avowed. I have beat Avowed. And I'm actually on my second playthrough. Took me about 50 hours on Steam. And I'm about 10, 15 hours on Xbox. I kind of wanted to go back, play some of the scenarios again, and see if they change. So let's jump straight into this. When it comes to the story in general, you are the envoy. You've been sent for the Empire to go out and find out what's going on in the living lands. It's essentially, I don't want to get too much into it, but there's a lot of Civil War stuff going on in this game. There's a lot of stuff. People hate each other. There's some pretty good dialogue when it comes to the factions of this game. Now, there's no faction system where if you join one, the other one hates you or anything like that. None that I came across. But the story I felt like was a good solid foundation on here. Now, I will say that I don't think the companions are the best when it comes to the story, because I'm used to BioWare games. I'm used to old BioWare games. We just had Baldur's Gate 3, where I felt like depending on your decisions in the story would determine whether or not your companions rock with you. They will push back. These companions will push back on you. They will essentially say they don't agree with stuff. But I never got to a point where I felt like I was going to lose any of them. And I know some people that might not be the biggest thing, but to me, the sense of consequences is what I love in these type of games. Is what I love in the Dragon Age games, in the Mass Effect games, even Fable. I love it in the original Fable especially. And I never felt that way when it comes to the campaign, to the story. I will say the dialogue for the game, if you just dash through the game, and you really pick up the dialogue, you really sit there. Some of the dialogue, some of the choices they make you in this game, you're gonna sit there and think about it. You're gonna think about it, and sometimes I had to push pause once or twice, and just wow, I don't know what to pick. It's one of those scenarios where it's either one I could see why I would pick that, but what is going to be better for the overall perspective of the game. Now, I will admit to you guys, as a story without putting the consequences and choices into the matter, the way I went was a solid story, and it kept me entertained from beginning to middle to end. I didn't go back and play it multiple times yet. I did one scenario. The first big choice you make in the game, I did it twice. I did it once on my original playthrough as a warrior and my second playthrough as a mage. And even though that I had different outcomes, I never felt like the world was affected by that first choice. Now, I didn't go back and play the entire game. I'm kind of curious if you have different last bosses. I try to make it transparent when I do these reviews, because you guys come to me with wanting my opinion on the matter. And my opinion on the story is it's good. I just don't know in terms of storytelling, in terms of branching paths, is it good? But I enjoyed the dialogue that I did come across. Now let's talk about the performance. I'll be honest with you. This theme, I had a couple crashes. I had some clip-ins. I fell through the map one time. But, with these type of games, I kind of expect some issues with the map, some issues with, just the game in general. I always, when it comes to these open, it's not necessarily open world. I call these open hub. It's kind of like Obsidian's Outer Worlds, where you have sections of the map that you can go to. What I really enjoy about it is you can essentially skip any part of the map and go straight to another part of the map. You got these little purple objectives around the map that you could teleport to, or you can go to the world map and teleport to the worlds individually as well. So in terms of performance, I did play on the Xbox Series X. It crashed on there a couple of times, not a lot, I think twice in about 10 hours. And on the, I would say 50 hours, it crashed maybe 6 times on Steam. Now, take that how you will. I do have a AMD build. So that has to do. When it comes to PC, I don't really talk about performance a whole lot because I'm not educated in the matter. I can only just tell you what it ran for me, and for the most part, it ran fine. Besides those 6 or 7, crashes, I wasn't counting or anything like that. Gameplay, I will say this is probably where the game was the strongest and the weakest at the same time. What do I mean by that? All right, so first off, this is an RPG, and I did feel that there were certain aspects of this RPG that kind of got casualized to a degree. Now, whatever I'm about to say is completely subjective. I feel this way doesn't mean everyone's going to feel this way. But they have a weight system in here. You can get encumbered. It's in most RPGs. The problem I have with this is they kind of made it where the weight system doesn't matter at all. Like when you bring up the menu, you at any time you could do it in dungeons. You have like a camp that you set up. You could send anything in your inventory to the camp. Now I understand a lot of people are upset with being encumbered. So I get why, like, logically they did this. But to me, you should have just made this like an optional thing that you could turn on and off in the menus, because they do have a good variety of options in the menu for stuff like this. But it just kind of like breaks the immersion where it's like, it doesn't really matter what I grab. I can grab everything because I could just open up a portal right beside me, just throw everything, just chuck it in there. And that part like really irritated me a little bit. I feel like you should have got like a companion or an upgrade or a side quest that, allowed you to do that in your camp. We could talk about the camp a little bit, and there you get these little totems. You also upgrade your weapons. You enchant your weapons. The camp was useful, but I do feel like there was never anything doing in the camp. Like in Baldur's Gate 3, you'd have random encounters that happened in that camp all the time. Random people would show up. Those are merchants. I feel like they could have did a little bit more with the camp. Doesn't mean the camp served its purpose, and I can't toss them for that. But I do feel like they could have did a drastic more thing. Now, let's talk about the map itself. The map is detailed in exactly where you're going and stuff, but I do feel like there's certain things that they should have improved on their map. One, they don't tell you what type of merchant it is. It just says merchant. I don't like this because I have to like remind myself and go to like all these random places just to double check if this is it or not. Sometimes that's not a big deal. Once you go to a merchant multiple times, it's not really an issue. But I would have really liked more information on the map. I didn't see a local mini-map dungeon. There's your map, your overworld map, and then when you go into dungeons, there should be a map in there. And I didn't really see that in there either. One thing I will say about the gameplay, though, is the skills felt nice. A lot of the time in these RPGs, and this is my opinion, they either want you to play as a fighter, a wizard, or a ranger. Avowed's kind of the similar, but you can pick anything you want. So there were certain skills that applied to a ranger that I could easily use as a warrior, such as like reduce the amount of stamina it takes to dodge. Now, you might not think that's not relevant to a fighter, but it very much is. There's abilities just for about any class than any of the other class. Now, does it mean that it works better in the other classes? No, but I would say that I like how you can mix and match. I always like the fact that, like, in my opinion, magic, there should be supporting magic for the other classes, no matter what you pick. So, for instance, let's go to Fable 1. If you wanted to be a ranger in Fable 1, you can get magic abilities that would let you triple your arrows. There was a lot of different stuff that you could do, and did it take that to this extreme? No. But I will say that I got to give them props for how they handled this, because I always felt like I had complete, total control of how I use my character. One thing, it's got a transmog system, and I know a lot of people don't like the way armor looks. They got you. You're able to essentially do what you want when it comes to what you want it to look like. And that's for the most part, I don't think really anyone's have issues. Now, another big like nitpick I would have for this, I would say this one's more of a nitpick than the weight one, is when you die in Avowed, you like Phoenix rise up. Is this an issue? No, but it's like you die, they give you one for you. That I didn't see a way that they really told this in a lore type of way. Now, at the beginning, there is something that happens that I guess you could go towards that direction, but this happens before then too. So I don't really necessarily know if they're trying to like connect the lores with that. I don't really have an issue with this, but I want it to make sense to the lore of the game. If you're going to give me a second rise, make it in the gameplay mechanics. Make me have to do a side mission for, or make it like a starting ability that you could pick with a certain class. Don't just give me something OP, like a Phoenix Rising ability where you get one death on us. Now, if you die a second time, it's game over. You got to go back to the screen. And let me tell you, this game will overwhelm you very, very fast. There's no denying that this game is difficult in combat sometimes. Sometimes especially if you go into areas, I feel like the difficulty spikes between area to area is massive. They got this like quality type of event where when you look at your ability, you have common, and then you have fine, and then you have like upper epic or whatever it is, and then you have like legendary. I think there's 5. So essentially, if you're in the second one and you're fighting people in the first one, you're going to essentially do 30% more damage to them. If you're in the third one and you're fighting people in the second one, you're going to do 30% more damage to them. As long as you're in the tier above them or the same as them, it's not a big deal. But when you go between regions, I always felt like they had 1 to sometimes 2 tier levels above me. So they kind of like made me go and grind a little bit. Now, certain abilities, they let you get over this. There are some broken builds in this game. And for the most part, I definitely enjoyed that. One thing I thought was funny is there is like no thief system in this game. Now, for those of you that play games like this, when you walk up and you see something like this, you take it, the NPCs are going to recognize that that's going down. They're going to be like, no, that's mine. Give me gold and give me that back or I'm calling the guards. It's a staple in most of these games. In Avowed, no. You can take anything you want. You can literally, let's say this deodorant is something that someone's working on and they're working on it. You walk up and you could take the deodorant while they're working on it and they won't say nothing to you. Complete immersion breaking. Feel like that is probably one of my biggest issues with this game is the immersion. I feel like they do really good with the gameplay, but the immersion's where they kind of fall short in terms of stuff like that. Let's talk about the companions. There's a few companions. I don't want to say their names or anything because I know some of you want to come into this blind. The companions are okay, but I feel like they're useless too. When I'm in battle, I generally felt like the only way to make them useful to me was making them where they buffed me. And that was essentially it. When any situation I went into, I was trying to have them heal me or buff me because I always felt like if it was up to them, they would get nothing done. Do they do damage? Yes. Do they do a lot of damage? Debatable. Are they useful? Debatable. To me, I never felt like they were useful. I did feel like they contributed to the game in a story-wise because there would be story elements that you have and you can like, yo, what you feel about this? And they will give you your opinion. And sometimes the situation going on affects them directly because that's the region that they live in. So I really appreciated that. You know, that's probably the best thing that they did on this is like the dialogue, the history. You know, they got this dialogue, history, and lore thing. And essentially what it is they will tell you about certain things in the universe and you can press X. I think it's like X or something on PC. I use the controller on PC, but it'll bring up this dialogue box and it will educate you on the important matters in the conversation. There has been games that have done this. There has. But I really haven't seen anyone do it to this degree. Like, I kid you not, sometimes they'd be like 3 or 4 things lit up and they'll tell you the slang to the individual people in every region and what it means. And I got to respect that. I feel like every company that does RPGs need to take this note from Avowed because this is one of the best things about this game. I always felt like I knew what was going on, Even though I didn't play a Pillars of Eternity game. That's right. I didn't feel like you needed to play Pillars of Eternity. Now, there are certain aspects to Pillars that you should probably know. I would recommend, looking up a YouTube video or two just to get especially how the gods are in the game and maybe the societies, maybe the empires, stuff like that will actually really enhance your experience in this game. When it comes to Avowed, the best thing I could say is they casualized the game a little too much for my liking, but there wasn't one time during the game that I felt like I was just going to drop it. I was hooked. I'm going to admit, I was hooked. I was annoyed with some of the decisions they made, and I felt like they could improve on it drastically. I feel like the companions need legitly an overhaul in almost every aspect because you can't even mess with their equipment. You can learn their abilities, but you can't mess with their equipment. But I never felt, even for one moment, I wanted to stop playing it. They give you some really good choices. They give you some choices that you didn't even know was going to happen. So you could kind of screw yourself before it even happens. And I have to say, I really, really have to say that I enjoyed my time with Avowed. Do I think it's like the best RPG ever made? No, but it's a fun RPG, man. I prefer if they would have gave me a little bit more choice to how I wanted to amp up the difficulty a little bit in terms of just like how the RPG mechanics work. Maybe not difficulty in general. Because like I said, this game has some huge difficulty spikes. But I enjoyed it in the 50, 60, 70 hours I played it. Because like I said, I'm 50 hours done with one character. Satisfying ending. Great final encounters. And I'm 10, 15, 20 hours into the next one. Probably 20 is a little bit. Maybe 10 to 15. Into a wizard character. And let me tell you, magic is so fun on this game. It's ridiculous. And I think you guys should really try the spells in this game out. But that's my Avowed review, man. Do I think it's amazing? No. Do I think it's horrible? Absolutely not. Do I have my issues with the game? Yes, I do. But I still couldn't drop this bitch for no reason. Because I enjoyed every second I played with it. Obsidian made a great game. Avowed. Great game. But I do feel like they could have done better. And that's just my honest opinion on the matter. But regardless, I enjoyed my experience with it. It's in Game Pass. I would, even if I was an RPG person, I'm going to be real with you guys. I'd probably still pay. I would still pay for this game because I still enjoyed it that much. I think Obsidian gave the people what they wanted, which was an RPG that was in the Pillars of Eternity universe. And what I see is the foundation of something amazing. And I know that they had, some development issues, and that's fine. I don't review a game what it could be. I review a game what it is. And what Avowed is a solid experience that's got great RPG mechanics, could be better, that you can get lost in for about 50, 60 hours. But anyway, that's it for the review, guys. It's out for the Xbox Series X, S, PC. I think it's even over there on the Epic Store and the network, the other one that Blizzard owns. But you guys know what I'm talking about. But put in the comment section below what you guys feel about Avowed. I'm very curious to your guys' opinion on that. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It's always appreciated. You can always sub to the channel. We make weekly content over here. We're always going to make content, man. I told you I'm going to put more reviews into the flow. But anyway, until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.